online, westsidedecoratingcenter.com. And a good morning. Welcome to hour number 2 of the Art Lewis Show. Nice to have you with us today. There's an organization in Bay County called the ARC of Bay County, and they're going to be holding a candidate forum tomorrow. We're going to talk about that a little bit with Jan Lampman from the ARC of Bay County. Jan, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
Thanks for being with us. Before we get into the candidate forum, I think we need a little overview of the ARC of Bay County, what it is and what it does.
Yeah, absolutely. So the ARC of Bay County is an organization that supports people with intellectual and developmental disabilities across the lifespan. We provide a variety of supports for folks. We do educational advocacy and navigation for families with children who have special education needs in the school system. We support adults through our representative payee programming, which just helps them meet their basic needs and pay their bills every month and those kinds of things. And then we do community building and policy advocacy kind of work, right? Making sure that our communities and our state have policy in place and have infrastructure in place that really supports the inclusion and participation of all people, including people with developmental disabilities.
And the ARC, it's not a standalone in Bay County, is it? It's part of a
it is
national.
No, it is not. Yes. So there are over 700 chapters, local chapters of the ARC throughout the country. We also have state ARC chapters, and so usually the local ARCs will really focus on local issues and direct support or direct advocacy for individuals, right? And then our state chapters typically are really focused on statewide public policy, right? So they're advocating at the legislative level or at the level of the Department of Health and Human Services. And then our ARC of the U.S., which is centered in Washington, D.C., does a lot of national public policy advocacy.
So tomorrow you're going to be holding a legislative candidate forum. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's going to be at 701 Washington Avenue from 7 till 9. Everyone's welcome. We've got candidates coming, and what we really want to focus on and talk about is making sure that the candidates for our public offices understand the important role that direct support workers play in the lives of people with developmental disabilities so that they can participate and be included in their communities and so that they can thrive. And we want to educate these potential legislators, right? But we also want to hear from them, how do you see your role as supporting people with disabilities to take their rightful place in our communities? So that's what tomorrow night is. So we're going to be talking a little bit about, how folks with developmental disabilities are able to access direct care and what that looks like and what that workforce looks like. In Michigan and across the nation, we have a severe shortage of people that are able to and willing to do the work of direct care. And we're trying to figure out, how can we better support that workforce? Because that workforce is critical to the success of people with disabilities in our community.
Do we know who the candidates are that are going to be there?
Well, we have gotten some RSVPs. I know that State Senator Green is coming for sure, and that is the one that I know right off the top of my head. I'm so sorry, Mr. Lewis. But we've invited everyone. We've invited local candidates. We've invited state-level candidates, and we've even invited gubernatorial candidates.
Good.
So we'll see who comes. Yeah.
So
typically, my experience, just to say this, my experience is that if the candidate themselves isn't able to come, they usually send a staffer, right?
Yeah.
Someone who can answer questions and gather information.
Yep. So, you've mentioned that there's a shortage of those with the ability to give care to these individuals. How do we fix that?
Oh, my goodness. Well, one of the biggest issues really that face that workforce is that how you're compensated, the amount of money that you're paid, the kinds of benefits that come with the job are really not sufficient to make ends meet, right? So the typical direct support worker maybe makes $17.13 an hour, right? A little over $17 an hour. Well, if you look at the cost of living anywhere in the state of Michigan, when you're making 20 an hour, you're really still at a level of wages that does not allow you to pay for your basic needs, right? So then you're either having to look for a job that pays better, or you're having to maybe work 2 jobs or 3 jobs, right, to make it ends meet for your family. So one of the things that we do know and that we hear from direct support professionals who love the work but leave because they need to make more money for their family is that the amount that we pay people, the way that we structure benefits like health insurance and those kinds of things is critical.
Yeah.
And because most people with developmental disabilities are on Medicaid, and Medicaid is really the only insurance that pays for long-term support, right? That pays for you to have a staff come into your home. It's really important that there is robust investment in direct care workers, specifically when those state budgets are being developed, right? When the Medicaid budget is being developed.
So,
we need to make sure that we're focusing on that population.
So for every action, there's a reaction usually.
Yes. Yeah.
You have these care workers that are making 17 and change an hour. You want to see them make more than a living wage. The overriding question is obviously who pays for it and where does that money come from? Right.
That is the overriding question. And right now, the only mechanisms that we have to pay for it is Medicaid, right? And so, or private pay, which no one can do that, right? You can't.
Right.
If you're a person on SSI, you're not going to be able to privately pay for anything. You can barely privately pay for your rent. So then we look at that Medicaid system. Now, what we know is that people with developmental disabilities have to be supported. We know that when people can live in their own homes, overall, that's a more cost-effective. Not only is it better for the person's well-being, but it also tends to be more cost-effective than, say, back in the day when we were institutionalizing people, for example, right?
Yep.
So we know that. And we also know things like other things go down. Like I think of my sister who has a developmental disability. When she was able to move into her own home, sure, we were paying for her to have staff in her home. However, her health care costs began to go down because she was sick less often, and she was not having high blood pressure as much. Her blood pressure was not as high because she was not as unhappy with her situation. She controlled who came and went from her front door, and that caused some health benefits for her that then reduced her health care costs. Yeah. So, there's like all kinds of ways to look at this, right? But when you invest in people, when you invest in people having good lives, you get a better product, you get a better outcome, right, with your spending and with your dollars.
All right, can you hang on?
Yeah.
I'll hold you over for another segment here, and we'll be back. We're talking to Jan Lampman from the ARC of Bay County. More on that when we return.
At Crystal Clear Hearing in Saget.
Back with you on the Art Lewis Show, talking to Jan Lampman from the ARC of Bay County. So, Jan, continuing on this conversation about the ARC and funding and all of that, how are you funded aside from Medicare? Do you have other funding?
So the ARC, actually, we don't provide direct care workers, right? So this advocacy that we're doing isn't like to support the ARC's internal budget. It's really to support agencies and organizations and individuals who hire direct care workers to help people with developmental disabilities, right? The ARC of Bay is really funded through donations, contributions. There's a few things that we can charge a fee for. We get grants. So we are like a nonprofit that gets our money from the community, right? The advocacy, though, and the point of our legislative meeting that's coming up this week is really to put a focus on the support that people with disabilities need to be able to thrive in their community. And we think that the direct care workforce is just like a cornerstone of that, right? And we need to make sure that we are investing in that workforce so that we can continue to not only support people with disabilities, but also that we support that workforce that so that we're creating good jobs for people, right?
How, I guess the question is, with ARC and other organizations similar,
Mhm. Yeah.
how are we doing at meeting the need of these people with developmental disabilities? Have we made improvements?
Well, so I've been doing this work for over 40 years, and I have two family members actually that receive services because of developmental disabilities. And I will tell you that in 40 years' time, we have made great strides in the state of Michigan. And I feel like in many ways and in many eras, we were leaders across the whole country as a state in getting people out of institutions and helping people to take more control of their own lives, helping people have meaningful days, good days. The place where we are really at a standstill, or where we're really having some struggles, is providing the actual people to do the work, right? So we've got great Medicaid waivers that allow for people to live in their own homes, but we don't have the staff to man the homes, if that makes sense.
No, I do. I understand. A lot of the agencies that provide these home services and healthcare services are having trouble finding people.
Yes, correct. And I will tell you, I think that though in the last, say, 6 years, maybe slightly longer, we really have had a lot of support from our legislature in terms of trying to increase that wage, right? I mean, people aren't getting minimum wage; they're getting a little bit over minimum wage, and that has been really through a lot of hard work of our legislature and the governor's office to come up with budgets that do allow for some increases in those direct care wages. We just we're not there yet. We still are not to that place where people can have this job and make enough of a living to stay in this job, right? Or to be willing to accept this job. So we still have work to do to really shore up that direct care workforce and make sure that we have enough direct care workers for all of the people that need support.
Yeah, there's a great, almost a paradox here in the terms of many of these issues, and correct me if I'm wrong, but many of these issues, as I understand it, we would classify as mental health issues. And over the decades, we've seen the closure of institutions, and we've seen people withdrawn from the institutions. But have we gone too far? Because if you talk to judges and folks that have to deal with it on a daily basis, they're telling you they don't have the necessary beds for people that really need that kind of intensive care. What are we doing with these folks?
Sure. So my sister Mary, who survived the Mount Pleasant Center, would tell you that that the best thing that ever happened to her was the Mount Pleasant Center closing.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I've heard that.
She will tell you that. Now, what I will say though is that sometimes what happens, I'll just give you a scenario. So you have a family member, say, with autism, and that person is maybe nonverbal and has lots of sensory needs and lots of, maybe they become aggressive, they struggle, right? Mm-hmm. You are not able to manage, you can't find staff to help you. You can't find direct care workers to support you and help you in the home. And so what ends up happening is there's a big meltdown, you end up in an emergency room, and now that person with autism is sitting in an emergency room for maybe 100 days. This is a true story, 100 days, waiting for either maybe a bed in a hospital, maybe a space in some kind of specialized group home, or some direct care workers that can be hired to work with them so that they can go back home, right? Mm-hmm. And so what happens is, because we don't have enough infrastructure in the community, then our hospitals do get overtaxed. I would venture to guess that there are people that are taking up hospital beds that could be used for someone who has a mental health need. They could be ready to come back to the community, but there's no place for them to go in the community and no support for them in the community, right? So you get this bottleneck. And so I think the more we shore up community services, the more we make available those spaces in our existing hospitals. And we do need to create, spaces for people that struggle more, right? We need to create places where they can live and be supported appropriately with highly skilled and highly trained direct care workers. Because even if you're in a hospital, you still need direct care workers.
Yeah. If
Right.
if we were to take the issues surrounding this region, the arc of Bay County,
Hmm.
and drop those issues on the arc of Oshkosh or wherever, they're going to be the same.
They will. This has really become a nationwide problem. This shortage of direct care workers within the field. You know, whether it be supporting people with developmental disabilities or people with mental illness, whether it be in their own homes or whether it be in specialized, homes and facilities. There's just a shortage across the board of people doing this work.
Probably multifaceted as to reason. And the reason I say that,
Sure.
yeah, it's one thing to talk about a living wage and being financially stable in your career. It's another thing about finding the people who want to do this job, who have the heart for it. And that, to me, seems to be a difficult side of it, too.
Yeah, so I think that it's finding people willing to do the job and maybe who have the heart for it, but also who have the support and training and skill sets, right? So it's not even just about paying people more. It's also about providing direct care workers with the support that they need, right, to be successful in the job. If you go to a job every day where you don't feel like you have the skill set to manage it, right,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to stay in that job very long, no matter how much they're paying you.
Do most of the caregiving companies do good training?
They do, but here's the problem. Again, it kind of goes back to money, right? Because if you want to train someone, you have to be able to pay them to come to training. You have to be able to pay the trainer, right? And if you're not getting very much money, right? If there isn't very much money available for those things, then you're going to do the best you can, but you might not be able to do all the things that would be beneficial for that staff person and the person they're serving, right?
So does Medicaid set the terms of payment?
Yeah, so yes, it's a really it's kind of a complicated and maybe even convoluted sort of system, right? But yes, so Medicaid is the payer, and so therefore Medicaid does have a say in how much you can, the rates that you can charge or that you can set. Historically, what's happened in Michigan over the last, decade or so has been that the legislature has been able to allocate dollars that go specifically to direct care workers, right? So an administrative pass-through, right? So they'll allocate money and say this has to pass directly through the behavioral health system to the direct care worker. So like, for example, we saw that at the beginning of the COVID pandemic when the legislature allocated what amounted to a $2.40 an hour increase in direct care workers' pay. And it was money that they appropriated, and it just it funneled through and got to the direct care worker, right? So that's been sort of a key methodology for dealing and addressing with the direct care wage issue. There are other ways to do it, though, right? Meaning you can also just think about what would it look like if we increase the overall allocations to our department that went out to the CMHs, and then the CMHs would be able to allocate more money for direct care workers. I mean, there's lots of different strategies for getting the money out to the direct care worker. But the bottom line is somebody has to say that it's a priority and allocate the dollars, right?
Do you have any insight as to what it looks like in this new budget that just passed?
So the new budget that just passed did some things that are, I think, really good. Because as you know, minimum wage has been going up in Michigan. And that hasn't necessarily translated to more money that goes into the providers' pockets for direct care workers, right? And so one of the things that the legislature did was, number one, they sort of made permanent those increases in wages that direct care workers experienced during the COVID pandemic, right? They allocated permanent dollars. But then they also allocated dollars to address the costs of earned sick time that is now the law, and also address the minimum wage increases that have happened over the past 2 years. So it's been helpful. Do we think it's enough? Nope. That's why we're talking to continuing to talk to legislators.
Which is an ongoing battle.
Which is an ongoing process. Yep, it's an ongoing,
Well,
fun
Jan,
and joyful experience.
remind everybody again about tomorrow's candidate forum, the whens and wheres
Yep.
and all that.
Yeah, so it's from 7 till 9 at 701 Washington Avenue in Bay City. I just want to let folks know, because you have lots of listeners, that also on Saturday, the 18th of July in Detroit at the Sacred Heart Church Hall, from 2 to 6, we will be hosting the ARC of Detroit will be hosting a forum, and then the ARC of Kent County will be hosting a forum on the 21st of July at 1301 Brookview Drive Northeast from noon to 5. So we've got 3 of them happening. The ARC of Bays, though, is tomorrow, from 7 to 9 at 701 Washington Avenue, and I hope to see lots of people there.
Jan, good luck with it, and thanks for spending time with us this morning.
You're very welcome. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Jan Lampman from the ARC of Bay County. We thank her for joining us. Open phones for the remainder of the hour, 989-752-6111, whatever you'd like to chat about.
Got a home repair problem? Don't get mad.
All right, we're back with you. And as I said, open phones for the remainder of the hour. And we have Tom in Saginaw Township with us. Tom, good morning.
Hi, Art. How are you doing?
We're doing well. Hope you are.
Sure. Good. I am. Just wanted to remark about how, we've had a lot of rain. But, boy, I have never seen this area that we live in so beautifully green and lush
Yeah,
in my life.
that comes with the rain.
Yeah, it's just absolutely beautiful. And when you're out driving around, you look at the trees in the city, out in the country, wherever you're going, and it's just, they look so healthy and green. And, boy, I could not live in Arizona.
No. However, there is a downside.
Right.
Downside is you're going to spend a lot more time mowing.
Oh, yeah. Boy. And I've got 8,300ths of an acre to mow, but luckily I do have a rider, so that's nice.
I've got an acre.
A rider.
I've got an acre. I've got a tractor, but I also have a guy doing it. So.
Oh, hey, that's even better.
At my age, I said enough's enough.
Oh, you're young. What are you, 25?
Okay.
You know what
I tell people, Tom? My mind tells me I'm 50. My body
There you
tells
go,
me
likewise.
but my body tells me my mind's a liar.
Yeah, that is so true. But let's enjoy it while we can.
You got it. All right.
Yeah. All right, take care.
Good
God
enough.
bless.
Thank you. You too, Tom.
All right.
Bye-bye now.
Okay.
And we'll talk to Mike in Thomas Township. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Art. Did you happen to see the fireworks from Washington, 4th of July evening?
I saw a little bit of video, not a lot. I didn't see it
I
all.
watched the whole thing. Oh my God! I've never seen fireworks like that before in my life.
Well, they said it was going to be that way, and they produced. Good for
He
them.
was right, yeah. But oh my gosh, it was beautiful. I mean, it was well done, and I'm not sure if the songs necessarily matched up to but it didn't matter. I was watching the fireworks, but it was kind of. Washington is really a beautiful place now since they cleaned it up, and I don't know if you know what all the graffiti off of the statues and the monuments and stuff, and the grass is beautifully green, and just everything was just awesome. I was there a couple of weeks ago, and it was just he just did a great job. The only thing that was bad was, of course, the reflection pool. And
well, the shots I saw of it on television looked pretty good. I couldn't tell.
Well, this was a few weeks ago, and somebody had thrown.
Oh yeah, a
in
few weeks ago. I know that, but
yeah. Well, now it's nice now,
yeah,
and
it looked pretty good.
It wasn't even really that bad when we were there, except that there was a lot of algae because of the you can't throw fertilizer in there and expect it to not happen. But
takes it.
Anyway. Yeah, I know. We got a bunch of them. But I was really pleased with the people in Washington and just everything. We went around to all the monuments and stuff, and just lots of touring people, and they'd all come by and thank you for your service, that, and I didn't know any of these people, and there was young kids and older kids, college age adults, and lots of tourists. Every monument we went to, there was tourists going.
Yeah,
and lots of National Guard on duty too. Still,
no,
not
good.
Doing much.
Keep it safe.
Yeah, well, and it is. I mean, of course,
if they're not doing much, they're doing their job.
Yeah. Well, we've seen a lot of them. We talked to a lot of them because they all wanted to come over and get their pictures taken with us, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was just awesome. I just couldn't believe it, how nice it was. I hadn't been there in 40, 50 years. I'd been there 3 times before, but this is the best time.
Yeah, good.
And, okay, well, anyway, have a great
All
talk to you later.
Thanks.
Bye
Take
now.
care. Bye-bye. I enjoy going to Washington, D.C. For the museums. And my favorites are the Museum of American History and the Space Museum out near the airport, not the one downtown. I mean, I've been to the one downtown, and it's nice. But the one out by the airport, Heims, I forgot what they call it now, but it's phenomenal. Unbelievable stuff in there. So anyway, Washington is a great place to visit. And, certainly if you're a history buff, really is a great place to visit. And I enjoy my time when I go there, spend a few days, but then it's get out. But I'm that way in any big city anymore. As a New Yorker and growing up in New York City, to me, freedom was moving out of the city. And I still feel that way today. I like to be close enough to big cities like Detroit, an hour and a half down the road, where I can go in and get out, but I don't want to live in one anymore. And, my friends all kid me. Anytime I get back to New York City, I usually go in and get out within 3 hours. And they say, "What? You're in New York? You're only going to spend 3 hours?" I say, "Yeah, I spent better than a third of my life there. I don't need to be there longer than 3 hours." So, anyhow, take a break. Lines open, 989-752-6111. I want to talk about something when I come back. There has been a change in the Detroit Tiger organization that you will notice if you watch the games or listen here on WSGW. It has to do with the third base coach. I'll tell you about it when we come back.
Hello, I'm Shep. And I'm...
All right, we're back with you here on WSGW. And we have a few minutes together. Still have time to call in. I want to talk about something that happened yesterday, or happened the day before yesterday. You might have noticed if you've been listening to Tiger Baseball on WSGW or watching it if you can. Third base coach Joey Cora, well recognized for his windmill approach to sending players home very aggressively, has left the club in the middle of this third season. And the reason, as described by manager A.J. Hinch, is philosophical differences. Apparently they had a meeting, and from what everybody says, there was no shouting. They just sat down and had discussions. And both agreed that it was probably best for the players and everybody to separate. I'm going to read into that. Hinch has his philosophical way of running a club, and Joey Cora had a different vision of how to deal with players, and the two couldn't unify their vision. It happens. He's a native of Puerto Rico, and he's the older brother of the former Red Sox manager Alex Cora, who was fired earlier this season. Both of them played in the major leagues as middle infielders for a long time. So filling his shoes now is Billy Boyer. He's a first-year member of Hinch's staff. You probably hadn't heard of him because he's the quality control coach, which I never heard of before either. He will now be the third base coach for the remainder of the season. And we'll go from there. Cora had been a base coach for most of the past decade. 5 seasons with Pittsburgh, 2 with the New York Mets, and 2.5 with the Tigers, and he was noted for challenging opposing fielders by aggressively signaling for runners to take third or try to score on balls in play. And we know the take third aggression has worked well for the Tigers because many, many times a simple single up the middle or to either field allows a runner on first base to make it all the way over to third. It happens time and time again. So that's good base running. However, not all are happy. At least they don't. They're just saying it was difficult. Jake Rogers, the catcher, said he can't speak for the other guys, but it hit me kind of hard. So we wish Joey Cora well. We'll miss his antics on third. He was fun to watch, no doubt about it. But in reality, you can't have these philosophical differences on how to run a team. There's only one person at the top. That's the manager. You either toe the line to what the manager wants or you don't. No big deal. You go off and find a team that operates with your philosophy. So it'll be interesting to see how the aggressiveness on the bases changes, if it changes. Don't know anything about Billy Boyer, so can't really tell you much about his style or his vision or what he wants to accomplish. But regardless, Joey Cora's gone. Billy Boyer's at third. And it'll be interesting to see how the team responds. They're all professionals. They all want to win. They're all going to be aggressive. And, you never know. I mean, maybe it's a plus. Who knows? Tigers have been doing well recently. They came off a road trip 5-1. Started out this homestand winning. Moving back into that contention for playoffs that we all hoped they would achieve this year. And it's happening at an interesting time because with the All-Star break coming up and then the trade deadline coming up, who's going to be buyers? Who's going to be sellers? Who's going to stand pat? Obviously, if the Tigers had kept on losing and had no hope of regaining, they'd be sellers. But that's not the case. They are now playing the kind of baseball everybody expected them to play. And that could lead to some good things before the end of the season. So it's going to be interesting to see what camp they fall in, buyers, sellers, stayers. Anyhow, that'll do it. We're going to take our last break, come back, and then tell you what's ahead on Focus.
Ready to update your home and...
All right, that'll do it for the Art Lewis Show for today. Be back tomorrow with lots more, of course. Coming up on Focus, Mindy McIntosh from McIntosh and Associates. That follows the news from ABC, the local report from WSGW, and then we'll be back.
Broadcasting from the